How's it going, folks? It's Lobo and welcome back to the channel, and I'm back with more Daredevil. This is episode 3, and if you're not already caught up on my reactions to the previous episodes, you can find the playlist to that in the description, as well as my new reaction to Amazon The Boys. I just recently started watching that, and every single week they will be dropping on a Wednesday. Daredevil is on a Sunday. So that's just kind of the rundown on my channel, so if you're interested in that, that's all in the description. But here we are with another episode of Daredevil, and right now, just before we go in, I'm in an interesting mood because right now, at the day I'm recording this, at the time I'm recording this, Matt Reeves teased that Michael Giacchino's official The Batman score would release, and specifically for my time zone, it will release at midnight, which is about 9.5 hours away. But being me and being so impatient, I watched it early through various sources and links. And it was so beautiful, but right now I'm in just like a state and feeling of contentment and peace. So I'm very relaxed and very calm, more than usual. So with that being said, I really hope this episode gets my blood flowing because I am just very content with where I am, and I'm very chill right now.
A size 10 and length.
Sorry, we're closing up. Mr. Plaska bowls when he wants to. Worked it out with the owner.
Can I join him for a few balls?
Man, this guy's really into bowling.
Just wondering if maybe I could join you for a couple games.
Private game. You mind?
I was just really looking forward to throwing a few balls.
Get this moron out of my face.
He's got bodyguards. It's definitely someone important. What the hell? Yo, holy shit! Was this guy like an assassin or something?
You got a bad attitude, friend.
36 hours earlier? I did not expect that guy to be like that. Appearances can be deceiving. I was like, look at this bowling fanatic, and then he just pulls out that shit.
Fresh, never been fired.
This guy's from the first episode. I remember. Ah, I hate headbutts so much. Oh my god, bro, his bone came out! Holy shit! Bro, what the hell is this? Jesus Christ, man. I was gonna say, is she just watching this shit? Why is he turning himself in? I mean, Mr. Fisk's lawyers are probably so good he'll get out lickety-split.
I want a lawyer.
Or Matt. Oh my... In the transition to the intro. Oh my god. When the answer's right in front of you. Because I was gonna say, I can't wait for this guy to fight Matt, but if he's his lawyer, then that's a whole different dynamic than what I anticipate.
Anything you said during the sacrament of penance stays between us. Sure you don't want that latte? Take care of yourself, Father.
I like that side of Matt, that he sort of confesses and feels sort of regret or sinful. A lot of play on religion and the parallel with the devil, so I like how sort of symbolic and literal that this show is when it comes to those aspects.
The rules.
There are no rules, Benny. Not anymore. You were the only one who did it. Without mentioning my kids. Always grateful for that. Take a pass on this one, Benny. Some fights will just get you bloody.
You know, she's not really free. Hey. Jesus, what happened to your eye?
Oh, are you okay?
Was that a knock?
Someone's at the door.
Ooh. So this is literally picking up the day after episode 2.
Hi.
Oh shit, it's that guy.
Do you do walk-ins? National. From time to time, we scout the landscape for promising talent to put on retainer.
That's why the Kingpin said start a file at the end of the first episode.
Larger firms aren't able to provide the same hands-on attention that we pride ourselves on at Nelson and Murdoch.
It's a fair question. Made a very lucrative offer from Landman and Zach in Manhattan where you intern.
You've done your homework.
My employer expects no less. Then for sure you, all my employer wants is for you to continue to be ethical, decent men. Good lawyers. You'll be fairly compensated.
How much? Wilson Fisk takes care of his men.
Uh-huh. It's fair. That's fair.
I'm curious about your clientele. Do they all end up working for you after you get them off for murder, or just the pretty ones? You should review one of our cases before you make a decision. Peace of mind and whatnot.
That's a fantastic idea. Matthew, what is your problem?
You wouldn't even give us his name, Foggy.
You wouldn't care if you could see the zeros on this check.
Yeah, maybe you would if you couldn't.
We're running out of time.
I'll meet you there.
I love how Matt knows better. I always don't mean to do Foggy dirty like this, but Matt is just so much more intelligent and aware than he is. Oh, that's so cool. Like, his instinct and intuition is incredible when it comes to situations like these.
She also says that you crushed the deceased's skull with a bowling ball.
Self-defense. Man.
We have a full caseload right now, so...
We'd be happy to represent you, Mr. Healy.
What?
We're taking the case.
He wants to get to the bottom of it.
Everybody we know is making twice what we are. Writing for blogs. Working from home in their underwear.
Newspapers are dead. Like in Spider-Man, it's the dailybugle.net.
Then you know anything you tell us stays in this room. Just like church. You at all afraid of what might happen if we lose this case, Mr. Healy? No. Are you?
That's not a client. It's a shark in a skin suit. You picked it back at the office. There's something off about this whole thing.
As for the man who hired you, all you need to know is his check's gonna clear.
I mean, they could both use the money. And they need the reputation of having success, but at what cost?
Hi.
Man, this guy, dude.
And we have to be on the same team, making decisions together.
I got carried away. I'm sorry, Foggy.
It's okay.
So, you open, I'll sum up. And we should cash a check, have Karen see what you can find out about Confederated Globe.
Right.
Execution of this agreement, the corporate interests, as they currently exist, agree not to pursue legal action against you. Not everyone broke that agreement and distributed confidential information.
I exposed...
And as a show of good faith, my clients would like to offer you a lump sum of 6 months' salary.
For what?
For all your help in the matter. And for any stress these events may have caused.
Stress.
Crazy, just watching the first episode of The Boys again. Reaction in the description, but just like that. Being paid off by damn officials to keep their mouth shut.
Got the insights?
It's still loading. We need better Wi-Fi.
We need better everything.
Let's do that. Let's win cases, be popular, and make money.
Hey.
All right. That he was justified in his actions. Instead, it's up to the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. At the end of this case, the only verdict that you can render will be not guilty.
The jury, this is an important case. And I have additional comments that I want you to...
Go home. Get some rest. Got a big day tomorrow.
Stay down. What do you have on her?
Who do you work for?
I don't know.
I want a name.
There isn't one. I'm somebody else's job.
Tell her to get herself excused from the jury. Personal reasons, whatever it takes.
He'll kill me.
Then you better leave my city.
Damn.
Tonight.
In service due to extenuating personal circumstances. The first alternate jury.
He takes a sip.
We're waiting.
Sorry, I've been preoccupied of late with questions of morality. Of right and wrong. Good and evil. A man is dead. And my client, John Healy, took his life. And facts have no moral judgment. They merely state what is, not what we think of them, not what we feel. They just are. Of good and evil, as important as they are, have no place in a court of law regarding the incident. The only other witness, a frightened young woman, has stated that my client was pleasant and friendly. Those are the facts. Failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that my client was not acting solely in self-defense. And those, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are the facts. Now, beyond that, beyond these walls, he may well face a judgment of his own making. The judgment is yours. And yours alone.
He'll be judged out there. I have a feeling Matt will get him later on. His own form of justice.
My husband was found dead in your apartment. You have no idea how any of this is for me.
Nothing ever happened between me and Daniel. They have to pay for what they've done.
They won't listen.
We'll make them listen.
I already signed.
Damn.
I think there's more to the story. If you're interested.
Damn, this is sick. This is just the break he needed. And there he is.
I'm in charge. She's sending him back in. Still split. DA will retry.
No, they won't. Will they, Mr. Healy?
That was a hell of a speech you gave, Murdoch.
Oh, I've long awaited this. Oh shit, this is like a crowbar. Or a pipe. Jesus, man. This shit is crazy. Oh god.
The man that hired your lawyers. Who does he work for?
You think I'm afraid of you?
Who does he work
for?
Here,
I want a name!
Fisk! Wilson Fisk!
Oh man.
I gave up his name. You don't do that, not to him.
No, you don't.
You should have just killed me. You coward.
What the fuck, bro? Jesus, man. I mean, the guy knew his fate, but oh, through the eye, really? That shit was brutal. Oh my god. This show really does not hold back.
You interested or just looking?
Interested.
How does it make you feel?
It makes me feel alone.
Alright, so there we have it. That was episode 3 of Daredevil, and Jesus Christ, man, that shit was brutal. I'm not usually like squeamish when it comes to violence. it depends on the situation, but shit going through the eye, and especially in that way where it's self-inflicted, that was so much. That's crazy. The level of sort of bluntness with this show in terms of what they will let you visibly see is insane. That is just so real, and it's so intense because you're just like, I really just saw that occur. It's not some quick camera cut and you're imagining what happened in the scene. Like, it's really creating that intensity and you're feeling the moment because you're actually permitted to watch it. So I respect them for doing that, but that's oh god, that was so nasty. But just starting off here, we had Wilson Fisk at the end. Obviously, since I've seen Hawkeye, I've been exposed before to Vincent D'Onofrio's character and sort of his version of Wilson Fisk. And I just gotta say, even if they didn't show him at the end there, this version of Wilson Fisk is already, in my opinion, superior to Hawkeye's. I'm not saying that in terms of like physicality, because we haven't seen him up until now, but the whole point of this is that the way people talk about him, on how he's sort of ruthless and you can't escape him and he's really down to business, he's so intimidating and he hasn't even appeared on the damn screen. That's the whole point with the guy's character, where he's like, he will find me, I shouldn't have said his name, I'm as good as dead, you coward, should have killed me, and then he killed himself. Like, that's just like crazy that even saying his name evokes such actions and instruments of fear and stuff. I'm like, that's insane. So with that being said, the writing and the particular version of his character here is levels more darker than it is in Hawkeye. And I understand, because Hawkeye is a Disney Plus show, so they certainly nerfed him a bit in the aspect of how he is portrayed here. I can understand that now, because I've heard so many people complain about Hawkeye's version. I'm like, how could you complain? He's such a badass. He took a car. He's so strong. He takes explosions. He can heave people 20 feet. But then I watch something like this and I'm like, okay, now I can see it, man. It's almost like you take the Joker and put him in a rated G movie. I get that now. I'm seeing and I understand that. It's just crazy how they really wrote him in a way for he's this character behind the curtains up until now, and he still has such a damn presence in everything, in everyone's minds and their actions. It's just incredible, and I absolutely love how he's being written here. But he's also, from my own understanding of the character of Wilson Fisk, it's taken from various medias and interpretations. Mostly it has to do with like animated things like video games and like old Spider-Man shows. But I've always known Wilson Fisk to myself to be a little bit more complex, where sure, he is the kingpin of crime. He's like the fatherhead. I wouldn't necessarily call him the Godfather, because these are different circumstances, but it still is in its essence, him being like the captain of a ship in a literal sense, where he's at the top, he's in the hierarchy, he's the very top of it. And he's still human, because it's always weird when you have these sort of lords or mob bosses or whatever, and everything gets so dark, and you almost view them as non-human because they're so alienated in the sense of where they do sort of ruthless actions, and you're like, wow, that person's such an animal, how could they call themselves human? So when you look at this, like metaphorically or quite literally, he still has these human qualities where he's very fond of art, and he still loves New York in his own way, in his own view, because it's all about perception with him. It's all about doing it within his own confines, his own rules. And it's very much like how Matt is doing things, taking justice and law into his own hands. So both Wilson Fisk and Matt have their own sense of identity and how they visualize what society is supposed to work with. So it's very cool to see a dynamic that has not met, but they still follow a similar path, but it's diverging in the sense of where their ethicality plays at. So all that culminating just like behind the scenes and through the writing and some of the dialogue, it's so cool to see. Man, I'm just loving this show so much. And with Matt being Matt and just being the lawyer he is, it's so hard for me. But actually, Foggy did really good. I'll admit, his like opening statement was pretty solid. Matt was like, good job. I was like, damn, Foggy's got some words, man. He can really articulate himself pretty well. So very good to him. But obviously, you have to close with the bang. So that's what Matt did. He was like, boom, bitch. And even the guy was like, that was a great speech, Mr. Murdoch and stuff. I was like, yo, he really did good. But just, it doesn't even have to be with his words, because yes, someone can be intelligent based on the way they can make sentences. Obviously, you can tell from me, from the way I talk, I'm not that bright, but there are still levels of intelligence that don't necessarily have to fit within the parameters of how well can you say a sentence, how well is your speech. But even beyond that, yes, Matt is very good as a conversationalist, but through his own way, as I said, his sort of perception and instinct is, I haven't met anyone on that level. The way he's able to identify things, yes, it might have to do with his hearing and his loss of vision, because his senses are like acute more so because of that and as a result of that. But it's not even that, it's just the way he's able to sense. I know it's playing on the idea of senses and you're thinking senses quite literally, but it more so has to do with that intuition, that feeling, that mental kick, that when I check the facts, these don't add up. Something's fishy about this. And Karen also has that intuition with what is it, Union Allied? These names, I always get company names wrong, but she knew that. She knew something was wrong. And the same thing with the guy that died. What was his name? The dude from the first episode that was dead in her apartment, and she confronted his wife about it. I forget the guy's name. He was dead. He was never in any alive scenes, but both her and Matt are very good like that. Even Foggy. Like the three of them are very instinctful, and I love how you sort of navigate through their psychology where they're able to identify certain things, but especially Matt above everyone else. Not just because he's the main character, but he's very talented in that regard. So seeing him really come to life and almost be a detective in aspects, but showing off his intelligence, it's the little things that I appreciate so much. That little detail, and even the way they did it where you could hear the guys watch in particular scenes, and then you can cut to the camera and you see Matt's face and how he's identifying that, hey, I know him based only on the sound, and then that leads him to incline to believe something else must be going on, and then he is like, oh, I can hear the person's heartbeat increase in the presence of him, so therefore they must be blackmailed or there has to be something else going on, and then he tackles that new situation based on the new evidence that he's acquiring. So, and with this whole idea and the premise of the episode, I'm just wondering how this is going to all work out, because Karen went and she's really pushing this story of exposing the money laundering. Now she's really going to another newspaper journalist. I don't know if it's the same one as they printed in the first episode, but she's really pursuing this story and trying to get everyone to see it and really bring it to light. And then versus where Matt and Foggy obviously doing their lawyer work, but now they're, I wouldn't say in bed with this criminal activity, but they're getting their hands dirty, even though they might not have the same moral sort of obligation or understanding that Wilson Fisk and his men do. Because as Matt said, he's talking about judgment and morality that is out of our hands. But it was a nice little parallel and sort of tease that he's going to take justice into his own hands during the night, which he did. And I was like, hell yeah. But it's cool to see that, but I'm just wondering how far are they going to go? Because both of them, for one, need money, not just to pay themselves and Karen, but you need money to live. So it's clear they need money and they need a good reputation. So good reputation not only comes from which clientele you pick up, but it comes out of success. Are you successful? But as I mentioned, it just makes me wonder, how much is this going to continue? Is this going to be a very reoccurring thing, or is it a one-time situation? Because at the end of first episode, Wilson Fisk told them start a file on Murdoch and Nelson, which he did, and then they called in, I wouldn't call it the favor, but they reached out to them, and as they said, they're clean, they're new, it's perfect. So that whole thing, like, it's so ironic though, because it's quite literally two opposing forces, but one working for the other without one knowing the identity of the first. Like, that whole situation, especially where it's almost like you try to lift the mask or unveil them in a sense, but having them quite literally in the same scene, even though we haven't had Wilson Fisk and Matt in the same scene, but his first-hand man, his henchman, who I can never remember his name, That's not Rigadelli, right? Or I think that person's dead. They refer to him. I think that's one of the Italians because they've talked about the Italians and Russians. But he's got the guy with the suit and the glasses. That's obviously his right-hand man. But to see him and Matt sitting opposing to each other in the same scene where they're both coming from different directions but have to find some common ground, but them not knowing each other literally because they are these opposing sort of entities. That whole situation, it's so dramatic but ironic, and I love that. I've seen examples of that used before a lot of times through, you know, books and other shows and movies where it's just the audience having the real knowledge of the situation, but once these characters find out, then it's kind of like a knowledge bomb. And now the last thing before we wrap up this video is I'm wondering the sort of timeline of the show so far. Because for the first 2 episodes, I believe it was within a time span of like 1 to 3 days. I think it was 2 days. Because they mentioned the child, the boy who got kidnapped and they beat his father. Matt mentioned that to Claire, so I was wondering, okay, is it like the next day or is it in the same week? But then here, they mentioned the events, I think, of episode 2, where they said it was a few days ago or something like that. Oh, it was with when Matt showed up with the bruised eye, and they're like, what happened to you? That's when he got beat up from the previous episode when he was with Claire and she patched him up. So I'm like, okay, and then Foggy and Karen also talked about when they went out drinking. So I'm like, that was either the night before or a few days before, but I think Foggy might have been a little hungover. So maybe it was the night before. So with that being said, it's like really within a few short episodes. And I think there was at one point you can see the mark from when Karen was strangled on her neck. I don't know if that was the shadow, but it looked to me like you could still see where she was strangled. So, damn, this is really a lot happening for them within just a few days. I'm very excited for the next episode. Again, I started my reaction to The Boys that is coming every Wednesday, and Daredevil, of course, is on every Sunday. Once I watch Eternals, and I have that out on my channel, I'm going to stick with the formula of every Friday there will be a new movie reaction, but that's not going to start for a few weeks. So once I watch Eternals, then I'm going to get back on to watching the X-Men movies to ultimately lead up to Logan, which I'm very excited for. I've never seen it, but for years and years I've always heard such an amount of praise for the movie, but we'll talk about that another time. That's like months down the line. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this one, and yeah, I will catch you folks in my next video.